You know what I know why? Don't want to know why. It's based on observations of people using that book in the past. When you, how many of you have actually dipped into it and looked at the lessons and so on and tried to read? There's a lot of detail in there. Would you agree? Yeah. So the difference between a book and that recorded lesson is that once something's written on paper, it's there. And so he's trying to pack everything into an audience that is absent. And what I've noticed is when people have been trying to prepare lessons from that book, it's really hard to sort out what detail to include and what detail to omit. When you listen to that recording again sometime and compare it to the book, you'll notice that a lot of the detail isn't there. So what does that say? Don't have to include any lessons. So that's why not that. The Esalen lessons, so they're lessons that he's teaching directly to a group of people, and yes, there's lots of commentary, but you can see, those of you who have looked at the notes, you'll notice it's 2.5 pages, most of them, and it's all over and done with. So it's a little bit easier to deal with. And that's something that I think, where are you? Oh, yeah. Where are you? Where are you? All right, sorry, something silly. You know, when you're preparing ATM lessons, you're sitting up there. No, you sit down. Can't stand that. Oh Lord, what are you doing? Yeah. You know, when you're preparing lessons, it actually, and you've got those ATM AY transcripts, yeah, sorting all that stuff out. How do you find it? And the worst lessons to try to teach from experience. I repeated what she said. It's okay. The worst lessons to try to teach from, and this is one of the directives as a trainer, to teach you the distinction between ATMs taught in training programs and ATMs taught in public. When you read some of those transcripts from the Amherst training and in the San Francisco training, it's just one long, for sometimes 1.5 hours, and you're going, okay, what's the important detail and what's not the important? And after a while, you get more skilled at sifting. Yeah. So we're trying to be as kind. No, kind is not the passive. No, to actually promote you being able to teach a lesson without having to go through all that initially. Now, one of the advantages of the book is that at the beginning of most lessons, he tells you, in this lesson, you will learn, or these are the aims and objectives of this lesson. And in the breathing lesson of number 4 of the book, he's not so explicit, but I've condensed them, I've summarized them up there. I always like something before it. So it's nice that he says in that lesson, breathing cannot be improved by merely understanding the mechanism of breathing intellectually. So really, everything we do in this method is based on experience. So that's just a gift. Notice the first thing. To recognize the movements of the ribs, diaphragm, and abdomen that make up your breathing. Did you? If we talk about that aim, we can now go, how does that accomplish? How do we get you to that place where you learned about it, where you knew it? That's all. Breathing in. can I amplify that statement? So the getting you to, you intentionally making those movements and attending to them. So describe to me, what were the three variations that it asked you to do? Good and happy. What were they? Oh, good. Now you're the microphone passer. Excellent.
To move your, chest and your abdomen while you had your lungs full, and to move them when you'd emptied your lungs as much as you could, and then to move them while you were breathing front and face, to breathe normally, and then in different postures.
Oh, you
Do
can
all of
summarize
those
a whole
things.
lot. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Don't have to go any further.
To move your abdomen and your chest in that flapping or the seesaw movement while you were just breathing normally.
So that was one of the variations. Notice that we're examining it in terms of that first time, which is basically to do with movements. Yeah? What movements happen when you breathe? Yes. Yes. The microphone.
So he had you noticing your contact with the floor, whether you were on your back or on your front, noticing where the contact increased when you expanded your rib cage. And in fact, even on the side that wasn't contacting the floor, could you sense that side expanding into rib cage and abdomen? And then we had you put your hands on rib cage and abdomen.
Right.
So several different ways of sensing.
So once we've got you moving, once you are doing the movements, you then requested that you pay attention to the movements in relationship to the body parts and in relationship to the floor. Did you do any of that yesterday? In scanning? Yeah. So can you see that scanning is like already a preparation for the methodology that you're going to use in the body of the lesson. If I said to you, please breathe in by expanding your chest. Please breathe in by expanding your chest. Notice that is a very definite, intentional way of breathing. Yes? Some of you may or may not do that naturally. Some of you might be belly breathers, some of you might be chest breathers, some of you might be different, sometimes this, sometimes. So he gives you a very different technique with that. Please expand your chest and take in air, I think, more or less. And then it was, please, what was next? So he tells you very definitely how he wants you to draw in air and how he wants you to expel it. It's very intentional. There's another, isn't it?
he said, nobody can do it for you. He said, you have to discover for yourself the process of breathing.
Yeah.
And that takes my attention, like thinking he can guide them, or a teacher can guide you, but actually you have to discover that.
Yeah. So that's another way of analysing the lesson. So there's lots of different ways of analysing the lesson. Some of them you already have. So we're analysing in terms of the movements of tongue, but we've also now analysed what you pay attention to, and then the overarching methodology, which is you're responsible for your own learning. I'm not going to tell you it's this or that. So when you go through a lesson, you can look for each of these on every time you go through the lesson. You go, oh, that's how you do it. Already we have 3 different perspectives. I wasn't saying that, but that's good. So the second objective, recognize timing differences between out-breath and in-breath. Did you recognize timing differences? Some of you say yes, and some of you go, oh, other people.
Yeah, I don't think that was as obvious in the instructions, particularly in my recognition of it anyway, just the timing aspect, compared to the first one.
So it was a definite yes for the first one, we all went, yeah. The second one? Yeah. Sorry.
Because the timing issue was, I thought, was really clear, because it was playing with the timing allowed you to feel whether or not your diaphragm was working.
So that was a seed thing, yes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go slow, go fast. That's the timing. Yeah.
However, that's not the difference between our out-breath and our in-breath. That was just speed.
No, that's a timing thing.
Yeah.
And then,
but it is quite specific differences between in-breath and out-breath. And that's something I certainly didn't know to know. Something I'm trying to know that was interesting that I didn't.
So there is this difference between explicit instruction and implicit discovery by the person doing the lesson. Could be. Well, actually, there's a little difference between lesson 4 and lesson 12. Because in the book, he has 2 lessons on breathing, which is a curiosity in itself, that he's taught so much that breathing is important. I have 2 lessons. Oh, it's coming your way.
So that one that we just did, it was in the middle of lesson 3. So it's not what lesson 3 is about, but it's in the middle of it.
Which one?
That breathing one. So the one we just did,
Lesson 4.
Yeah, well, it's in the middle of lesson 3. What I read yesterday of my lesson 3 notes. Yeah, it's in the middle of it.
Oh, you mean your Esalen notes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Notes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. No, it's not. It's shut the phone.
Oh, you're talking ATM book. Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's right.
Sorry about the confusion.
That's okay. It's okay. I was going, oh. Anyway. Yes. So it's not that he doesn't ask you to do it, that in this particular lesson he's chosen, well, for some reason, he says he will do it, but he doesn't do it as explicitly as he did the first time. So when you're looking through your lesson and you're planning what you want to say, you now know that you have a liberty, that you don't have to say everything there is to say about reading. And even if you did want to say it and you don't end up saying it, you don't, it's okay. He didn't do it. So that's one of the things that it's taken many years to realize, and that is, I am free to do whatever Feldenkrais did. That means he's written an objective over there, and he has no explicit instructions in the lesson about noticing the difference between the timing of the out-breath and the timing of the breath. Even though you might feel it yourself, there's no explicit instruction. So if he can get it wrong, I can get it wrong. I mean, believe me, that is a biggie. That's really big. Even if it's in your intent. So, in that lesson, there are no explicit instructions about that. It's an implicit thing, which Philippa found, and maybe some of you other things that you for some of you. It's not explicit. Please. What would happen if one day I said no?
Sorry.
No, not for you. Good. Please.
Regarding the implicit thing, how I feel the method, you don't need to say everything because you need to leave space to the others to arrive to that response. And I think it's the ability to know when you don't say more things, but to say a lot of things that maybe could be too much.
I agree with you. I agree. So, would you say then, when you teach lessons, that do people report more than you expect?
Well, I think generally in a lesson, there's so much there that.
So, you come to the end of a lesson and you get the group to say, what is it that you experienced? Yeah. That's what I'm asking.
Well, they can, and it can be surprising that they've noticed something that I wasn't explicit about or that I didn't even expect them to say. And I think in a sense that's the beauty of it, that the lessons are structured so that people, when they're engaged, they're going to find something out about themselves or notice something. So if you leave something out or aren't as explicit, it's not going to wreck the lesson for people. They're still, the majority of time they're going to get up and say they've noticed something. No, I definitely don't.
So some of your personalities will come through in your lessons, and that's to be expected. And,
I'm just trying to get Raymond's attention.
There you go. I think.
Because Raymond, when we had our discussion, and he was talking about the stories themselves, and we've had the discussion about the rest and the story. You want to? You set them up for me.
I didn't think it's sort of relevant now. It's ATM structure. Yeah. I'm on your right wavelength. We're talking about rests in ATM, and we have rests that are structured and aren't structured.
Yeah.
And my suggestion was that he used his talking as a con to make us rest. So that was part of the structure that wasn't described as the structure.
Yeah.
And that was the point that I said that. And I've seen him talk, and I've noticed all the instructors they give different timing in rests. So that was within the structure, but not mentioned in the structure.
Right.
Yeah, it's still it's still an important part of the lesson.
Absolutely.
But not mentioned at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about lesson analysis, can you see that it's not just the movements that we're analysing? It's not just what to pay attention to that you're attending and examining. It's a lot of things. How much talking is there? How little talking is there? When does the talking happen? When doesn't the talking happen? What happens in the rest time? What doesn't happen in the rest? And given that lessons are about experience, that tremendously affects. Pretty much the same kinds of considerations as any theatre director would consider. You know, how do you take the audience along on a journey? And the difference between a written book, where ever encountered a book that's not been written, redundant. Yeah. Audiobook. Okay. Yeah. The difference between a book and transferring that book onto a screen is tremendous. And the machinations they go on in terms of how they present the story. The same thing happens as you're preparing a lesson that's coming from the text. Yeah. And resting, pauses, timing is a very important factor.
And I think, not trying to butter you up or anything, but it was one of your lessons. And I was just listening to it to sort of, identify component bits. And I just thought, this is so amazingly choreographed. Because there was a pause and then, and there were no ums and ahs. It was just amazing.
I thought it was amazing. That is amazing. Because when I listen to my own recordings, I hear so many ums and ahs these days. It's like, oh,
well,
God.
Not compared to what I'd be doing, and being comfortable with saying nothing. I find that really hard.
Well, if it's time for true confession, it's very uncomfortable. My palms sweat.
I agree. It didn't sound uncomfortable.
No. But from an inside perspective, I'm letting you know that sometimes, actually all the time, it's very uncomfortable. Whereas for some individuals, they really like just
I was just saying it's difficult to resist the time pressure when you talk. And if you listen to great, orators when they speak, they don't blah, 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 blah. They actually talk and they emphasise certain things.
So
it's a skill.
Yes, and it's a learnable skill, and that's also, Coming.
He loves silence. He's a very quiet person. And other people will talk, and he would say nothing. And they all of a sudden everybody turns and looks at him because he's not saying anything. And he says, a lot can be said in silence. He said in music, the rests, the pauses are the most important parts. That's what he believes.
Yeah. That's nice. Thank you.
With Moshe in that lesson that we just did, Like that would be also the difference between teaching the general public and experienced people that have used Golden Cross a lot before you. Like if people don't know about the rests, you're obviously going to prompt them a lot more to do so. Whereas I imagine everyone from that you just figure it out when you're talking.
Yeah.
You never just stop for a bit.
Well, that's what I witnessed as I was watching you
Yeah.
going, popping in, popping out. But actually, physically in that lesson, there wasn't rest. There was one or two, that's it. That's because Golden Cross, is that kind of rhythm person who just admits it. It says it somewhere in the answer. It says, my rests are like, my 1 minute rests are like 5 seconds. Because he's driven.
Rest for a couple of minutes.
Actually,
It's somewhere in the book, at least once.
Okay. I'm so glad because this is my little poke at Golden Cross, but that's okay. You know, yes, he does. He explicitly says in that ATN book, a good teacher allows their student time to absorb what they've just experienced. And 2 minutes is a good time for that to happen. I don't think I have heard Golden Cross give a rest for 2 minutes. But what I have heard, and this is what was great about your observation, is him talking for extended periods of time that allows you to come in, go out, in, go out. So he does it, but not in the silent voice. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the third one. The third one is to realize that the process of breathing adjusts itself to postural changes with respect to gravity. Yep. Yes or no? Tick or not tick? Yep. You can see, once again, explicitly, lying on your back. What other variations? Yeah. So now is where we can go into kind of more movement / biomechanical. So when you're up on your elbows, what's that about? What makes breathing so different when you're up on your elbows? Yeah. Yes, the base of support is very, very different. Yeah. What do you think about how the organs are
I hadn't thought about the organs, but they're going to be, well, they're going to be accommodated. If you think the skeleton's your framework, so if it takes on a different shape, they're going to have to move. So if you slouch back, things are going to move backward. And if it's your lungs, in my image is that they're also going back, so maybe the back part of the lung isn't as free to expand as the front of the thigh.
That would be a perfect engineering. Yes, you have created a suspension in the pelvis. Yep. Please.
From a chainsaw operator's point of view,
Yeah, good. I like that.
we look at every piece of wood as being under compression and tension.
Yes.
And when we're leaning back like this, we've got compression on the top side, and we've got just.
Hey, hold on. I'll come over. You can point out my compression. There we go.
Well, okay, we've got the weight of his body pushing down. So if I was doing a quick cut, I'd slip the saw under here and knock it up, and the whole thing would fall down. So what he's done is actually the whole top of him is pushing into itself.
So that's
And
the compression.
That's a
side.
compression, and the bottom side is pulling away from itself.
Okay.
So you've got compression on the top and suspension or
So everything's under
tension underneath.
on the back.
Well, everything, unless it's laying flat on a perfect surface, everything has a tension and compression side. It's really interesting when you start looking at everything like that. Yeah.
I break.
Well, this is our task,
You mean
to
if I do
identify compression and tension in our customers. Just another way of looking at movement. And look, even a falling cut, when you have a tree straight up and you fall it and you leave hingewood through the middle, when you look at the narrow hingewood, there's always a tension and compression side. One pulls and one shears. It's one of the things that I realise that I try to teach.
So you've now introduced this to your third perspective, and that's an engineering perspective on these lessons. So when I mentioned organs, and so the organs are being compressed and they're under tensions and compressions in different ways, but they're also in a different relationship to gravity. And you've got to know that organs are heavy. They have a lot of water in them. So viscera, organs, heavy. If you change the angle of the body, then the whole weight of the viscera is resting on different parts. So then you have internal compressions and decompressions, and then you've got a different set of hydraulics going on. So this is all engineering perspective. So from a biomechanical perspective, this is what you said, Anna, that this was flexed here, and then you also included some engineering that the arms had become struts, and so the clavicles are now not free to move anymore. They've become supporting structures. It's really now hard to take a chest breath in because you can't. It's not quite available.
It starts to get a bit complicated if you try to bridge the body. As you said, you've created other compression and tensions in several different spots. So it does blow your mind a bit and get away from the nice simple concepts that we like.
Yeah.
And which is why we look at skeleton instead of muscles.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
which is
right.
the basic concept of looking at movement and skeleton.
Yep.
Simple.
So that's like the engineering, the structural ideas underpinning the lesson. So he's playing with those.
I just wonder if there is I understand that it would all change depending on what position you're in, how you breathe. That's what the lesson's showing. But is there a position that gives most freedom and flexibility for you to move? Is it an upright position, or and then we sleep lying down, and that's sort of when we sort of turn ourselves off, the no weather factor law, or Weber, whatever it is, Weber. But is that not giving out, given we then have that sort of change in pressure and everything? Is there a way that the lungs and the breathing can be?
Yes, of course. Thank you for that transition. That was good. Yeah, that transition to number 4. Is that okay? Can you go back to number 4 for a minute? Yeah. Okay.
So just one, like the gravity as well. Like if you're in an upright position, you've got the gravity changes down here and here, but if you're lying on your back, you've got gravity. I know it's like you're just talking about organs and everything too, but on yourself as a whole structure.
Yeah.
You get area.
Now, to follow up on that, you had 2 different angles for the viscera to fall in. So you had horizontal and vertical, then 90 degrees to each other. And then you had 2 options that were 45 degrees. One of them was this, and the other one was up on your knee. In one, the lungs are not the heaviest of the lot. Heart. Viscera, on the other hand, are heavy. And in this position, viscera is pushing against the diaphragm. It's like a dam wall. The diaphragm has become a dam wall, and the viscera are pushing up against it. Well, that increases the amount of work that the diaphragm, it's like the diaphragm is now lifting weights. Yeah? Give it some weight, and suddenly you find your body being thrust forwards and backwards. So it's not just the shape that you can do, but it's also the internal dynamics that are done. Does that make sense? So, back to your discernment.
Which, getting back to that,
I'll read it. I'll read it out. To discern that breathing becomes easier when the body is held erect without conscious effort and supported by skeletal structure.
which was when the viscera and everything, all the, like, gravity is not working on the lungs at all on the outside. Any other angle that's coming at it. Yeah.
Gravity all so you can gravity always works on the body unless you're in outer space or in some suspension suit underwater. You're never out of gravity. Lying on the floor on the back is not gravity. Don't ever forget. Yeah. But it feels like there's no weight.
That's not what I meant. So
Yeah.
I didn't read it wrong.
It feels like there's no weight.
What I'm saying is that gravity is not pushing directly onto the lungs from the front or the back.
Yep.
When it's vertical, it's just a straight line.
Yeah. So the line of gravity through the body is different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And that gives the lungs more freedom to go this way and that way, which is their major direction expansion.
Yep.
They do go down a bit, which actually works with gravity anyway. But they don't tend to go up and down.
So what is so for Feldenkrais, can't talk about anybody else. Feldenkrais, would you say that most of his discussion about posture is to do with human upright? Upright.
I would. I'm also thinking, I mean, he does a lot of lessons also based in developmental movement. But I think the outcome is because people mainly act in the world from an upright stand. But he's interested in people being better organised in the upright position so that all their activities, they can be more effective and more potent.
So most of the time, he's aiming for an upright posture that has those qualities, no conscious effort associated. How many of you, when you did that lesson, found some of those body configurations, those body positions awkward? So I can verbally report to you that for most of you, when it came to being on your elbows, from an engineering perspective, excuse the language, you're all stuck. Yeah? You were all stuck because you had this huge 6-kilogram object sticking out on your neck back here. None of you had the neck above, the head above the neck. None of you. Well, actually, a couple of you did. Yeah? So already, you're going to not last very long here because gravity is having its way with you something really bad and trying to access muscles that are not designed to hold you up. So what do you feel? You're not going to feel lack of effort. You're going to feel a lot of effort. Until you could say that that is a particular attitude or posture of the body that you have to learn anew because it's not in your repertoire. So that's why most of the time when he talks about postures, he's talking about how can we breathe better in this upright posture. And of course, if you can learn to breathe better in those other postures, it's inevitable that when you come to uprightness, there'll be a problem. Yeah, please. Microphone. It's only taking me 13 years to remember to say that.
In that lesson, he did say something about when you're in that posture with the elbows. He did say something about the breath going through your throat. Can you remember? He did say something about that, and it confused me at the moment. That's why I remember it, because he seemed to suggest, in my memory of it, or my experience of that, that it would be easier, and I wasn't finding it easy to swallow or breathe there, and I thought, how is he saying that's easier? So that's my memory, but I don't know if that's what he said. I don't know if anybody else remembers
have a
anything
clear
about it.
memory of that instance. but
Yeah, he does say something about it. I can't remember what it is. No, but it's just in my mind. Through your throat, but yeah, you can't seal it, and mine felt sealed or something like that. I can't, I can't remember, but it was contrary to what he was saying is what I was experiencing.
So that's a good.
So that made me think, how is the?
Oh, good. So that made you think.
Yeah, because
Great.
I was thinking, well, how do you get that to? No, it wasn't. No.
So when Feldenkrais, well, actually, when any teacher says you'll find that easier, and you don't. If you're provoked into going, how come I don't find that easier? That's a good thing. If you're provoked into behavior, that's not a good thing. So it's always you're throwing the dice when you're putting out a statement. You will find that this is easier. I think something to consider. This has got to do with analysing a lesson in terms of language and statements. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do. I'm just saying that just like you pointed out to her, this is what can happen. People go, well, and some people go, oh, this one. So it has various effects. The effect you want is the person to be stimulated into inquiry. Oh, it's not easy. Why? How come it's not easy? And at that stage, you'd expect them to go, I'm not finding it easy. How come it's not easy? You know, if that was just an open, why isn't it?
So that triggered me to say that was that, to make that more open, you actually have to put your head back. And I'm kind of going, feel good.
Does one have to put? Sorry,
Well,
of course not.
I don't know. But that's what I was, I was kind of going, how does that work? So that's right.
Oh, good. Please, just be there for a moment. Was it in this elbow position? Yeah. We'll get Raymond to do some freestyle. So in the position you're in, yeah, you feel to bring your chin to your chest, you have to fold in your throat, right? So take your head back. And, no, just a bit to where you were before you tuck your chin. You've done this lesson, I think, where you're for a long time in this thing. And one of the things that Feldenkrais points out is that you do want the orientation of the head to be on a horizon. Now, one way to do that is to use the flexible neck to get it, but then your flexors are working like crazy. And not happening, you found that the breathing gets cut off. So the other way is there a possibility in the chest to come up a little? Is there a possibility in the pelvis to go this way a little? So that you get more folding through the chest, and then the head, oh, yes, there is. That makes me even worse. But what about your throat? Is there airflow through your throat? Yeah. So this is a good, we'll do that then. Do that then. Yeah. So can you see now you start to play with multiple factors? Have you go ahead and sink between your shoulder blades? You did that, and they come up out of the shoulder blade. Oh, there's lots of options too. Yeah, yeah. And go see, and raise, 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 raise. So you can see, thank you. Now you're getting higher and higher. Did you notice? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Now that would be a great FI to have with somebody at any time. But it'd also be, if you see that in your class that people are having difficulty, the next lesson that you have, you pinpoint that back in so that they find that in themselves. And you get to find people suggestions. Not because you planned it ahead of time, but based on what you see in class. This is how the whole AMP has changed. One lesson follows another lesson based on what you see in the room. That's why it's such a difficult thing to pull out lessons from, because they have this connection in them that is very, very intimate based on that group, what's happening at that time. Yeah, actually that's the right word for it. Beautiful. Organic, very organic. And that's one way of using the lessons to stitch them together organically by what you see in the class. Oh, like, oh, they're having difficulty with that. Or they mentioned something about this. Oh, let's do that. Oh. And when you have beautiful community, when you have a community of colleagues that have been studying these lessons for a while, you just, I mean, you know, this, do you know a lesson? Most people, yeah, I think I got one. You're not alone. Now, really, for this last one, to discern that, when you stood up and when you walked around, did you have any sense of yourself that? Yep. Discern that breathing becomes easier when the body is held erect without conscious effort and supported by skeletal structure. Yeah.
Usually, quite often, out of I'm so busy just staying upright or managing dizziness or a change in pressure or that I don't actually get something like that. And it often is still, what should I be doing? What is the truth? Take a lesson to say to me. So I didn't.
Yeah. So this is where remember yesterday when we were talking about scanning and what to scan for, and one of the reasons that we came up with is to actually track what's changed over time compared to before, and then we're tracking it up. So that's a big statement. Yeah. What you need to do is track what has taken place before the lesson and where you are now. As what's changed? Is something a little
Like say you were saying that one of your teachers actually does that, ask you to stand and walk you through it and notice the question.
Thanks. There's usually a point of reference to start by the end of it.
correct.
That's it. That's the formal pushing hills or inside of the foot.
So we have now reached a very good place. Remember yesterday, all that yuck about scanning yesterday, and here he is, no scan. There's no scan in that lesson. There's not a scan, there's not a reference. Susan will be doing reference to movements next week, but there's no scan in that. Nothing. So as a point of reference for yourself, unless it's been clearly established, what does it feel like to stand before? What does it feel like to stand and breathe upright before? Then it's a bit of an ambush to then ask you at the end what's different, because then you're going on your memories of, oh, I usually feel like this, or it's asking something really radical to be popping out so that you go, oh. So this is where you make a call. To scan or to not scan. This lesson does not have a scan. Will I put a scan in? Is the thunderbolt going to come out of the sky because I've added a scan and college goes, oh, scan? Yeah? No. You make sense of the lesson and you add what you need to add. And so I can scroll through these lesson notes really quickly for you because we'll be doing this after lunch. But you'll notice that when I teach this lesson, there is a scan. Note uprightness, shoulders position, and the breathing. As I quickly flick through this, you will see two very different things. And this is just a preliminary before lunch, because after lunch, Jenny and Ruth and I will be sharing with you how we prepare lesson notes. But if you look here, there's what you basically quickly see is things in red are all the starting positions. Things in black are the movement instructions and what to pay attention to. So quickly you can see everything has a distinct starting position in which you operate. Yeah? So that's it. So yes, put in a scan. If there is no scan, put in a scan. Especially for what?
I think it's really beneficial for a person to have a scan beforehand in an upright position, because then they come back to it and they can notice the difference. And I mean, and as Lauren said, Susan's going to be talking about reference movements next week. But that's, you know, often at the beginning of the class, I'll get people to do a movement. And even sometimes watching each other do a movement, because then some people aren't that kinesthetic, so sometimes a visual scan, they can then go back to, and they'll go to each other, wow, look what your pelvis is doing, or, you know, whatever. And it's also nice sort of for group interaction, I think.
And also people believe each other more than they believe you. No, really. Yeah, if someone else says to them, wow, that's so different. They don't believe, they don't think, oh, they're trying to understand. There's something about someone who's just done the lesson.
Can I ask a sort of question about, you know, the use of words in the scan or a reference movement, and then the implied, what it might imply to people? Because, you know, say, for example, when I was doing Felden class before I started this course, often the instructors I had would say, compare left and right very much, or, you know, the height of your shoulders. Sometimes you do it with a partner and how high your shoulders. And I took the implication of that to be symmetrical would be good and even shoulders would be good. And that's what I was aiming for. And I'm not sure now I've done the course that is the case, but it was never explicit. You know, she'd say, so notice which is your high, your left or your right shoulder. And I think, oh, that shoulder is way high. Oh, that's terrible. What, you know, what am I going to do about it? And then I'd be walking through the day sort of going, trying to get
You're
the
going to go
thing
have
down.
100 lessons. That's what you're going to do.
So it's one is that it is the question, I guess, is are we trying to imply in the reference movements or the scans an ideal? And if not, shouldn't we be trying to give the poor public some guidance? So, you know,
Yeah,
don't necessarily be trying to
absolutely.
make it even.
I think that's a wonderful, wonderful question to wrap up this discussion on. I'm just looking for some. Love this. So, you know how I said yesterday we're looking at the beginnings of lesson, and we went straight into scanning. And I didn't talk about anything that you just asked. So, a beginning of a lesson is like, for people that have never done this work before, it's like you might as well go to Turkey and find out what it's like to live in Turkey. Because it's a whole new culture. So what do you expect? Do you expect people to shake hands or not shake hands? Do you expect people to look you in the eye or not look at you? What's the greeting? You don't know. So inviting people into that world is really important. And if you don't, you get back exactly what you shared with us. Oh, I don't know what to do with this. I do it. Now, yesterday I suggested to you that a scan is a very particular process. You attend to the heel, rest on the floor, into that heel, rest on the floor, and then you compare. What I'm interested in is the process that Linus is going. He's pointing out stars and he's seeing the pattern. Oh, it's here, I see the stars. Same thing here. All I want is you at that time to just make an inquiry. Is there a pattern? And will that pattern change? Are you going to change that? Very likely. Because the truth of the matter is, most of those patterns constantly change, and some elements aren't. When you find that out, that's a big piece of news. Some things that are constantly changing and some things that hardly change. And that has nothing to do with, is it right? Is it wrong? Is it better? Is it worse? Because we can, you mentioned judgment. Is we can go straight into reactive judgment. I use the word reactive before we'd even reflected on it. Bam, there's the judgment. But if you can just hold that and go, oh yeah, it's fine. And then the next breath, oh, lower. And then the next breath, oh, it's higher again. And what are you tracking? You're tracking that you're a being that constantly changes, and what you choose and how you choose to move yourself affects the direction of change. That's what Prabhupada means, and he says all those things that you experience at the end of the lesson, the 5 minutes, 6 years, they're trivial. What are they trivial compared to? Realizing that you have the feeling in your heart of being able to change by noticing, attending to yourself, and skillfully directing yourself to that. that into being? No. Yes. Yeah, well, I have great reasons to be lopsided. But yeah, so really, there's a statement that he makes in that lesson, you know. He says something to the effect of, you want to make your breathing as you want it to be, to suit what you're doing in that particular part of your life. So I might as well make it public now. For those of you who haven't noticed that I'm public, I am. There's a hip joint that's about to go bye-byes. But I'm happy to walk in whatever way I can find to walk that enables me to walk without pain and to even get from one side of the room. I don't care. My partner really cares what it looks like. I can tell a quick story and we'll go to that. So we were visiting a friend somewhere. You guys heard this story. We were visiting a friend somewhere, and Joanne, my partner, doesn't get into it. So we were walking, and we visited our friend, and then we were going home. We had to walk all the way to the bus stop. Back. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm a bit of a nerd. So, Star Wars, the Hobbits, all of that stuff. And all of a sudden, I start to walk like. Yes, what are you doing? I don't know, but I think I've turned into an orc. Because when you watch the Lord of the Rings, you know, this is how the orcs walk, right? And it's like, well, why are you doing that? I said, it doesn't hurt. So you see, so what would prevent me from doing that? What would prevent me would be, I feel like an idiot. Obviously, I didn't feel like an idiot. What would prevent me was to think, what will others think of me? And so we carry within us memories, socialized norms that are present in our minds, whether we like it or not, and we're making commentary. There's a whole psychotherapy based on it. What is it? Voice dialogue? Voice dialogue. Yeah. They're the norms that come in society. And these are the norms he's trying to get. If it really is what you need for that point in your life, for whatever reason it is, and if you want to be something, and if you really want to be something, you can use everything you can, if that's your choice, to go towards that. But if it's something that you think you should do because someone said to you you should do, and if you don't really want it, so this is really what's really important at the beginnings of lessons. Yeah, when we first come to this. That's right. Because they can't leave that behind. They bring that with them. So let me try that again. Yeah, it's not bad actually. Yes, of course. I'd turn into an orc. I mean, those teeth are disgusting, you know. So. Yes, of course. The joints in the ankles will start to deteriorate because my structure's not really built for that. So, yeah, but you see, after I got on the bus and I sat down for a little while, I didn't have to walk like an orc a little bit. But, Oh yeah, yeah. I'm responding. I'm responding to your question, and that is that the checking in. What is possible now? What can I bring now? What can I do now? That becomes a constant. So moment by moment, you make the choice. Rather than, I just walk like an orc now, it helps. So therefore, I will walk like an orc for the rest of my life because it helps. That's a different kettle of fish. Yeah? So as I was about to say, once I got on the bus and then got off at the other end, had a little bit of a walk, I transformed back into an elf. And I was able to walk very nice and upright. My legs were completely underneath me and it didn't hurt. And then I had to go back to orc. And so basically gait, so if I get rid of all those crazy stuff, gait can change moment by moment based on terrain, based on your mood, based on the pains that you might have, based on what else? What you're carrying? Yeah. Emotional state. The music you've got on, that's great. Yep. So gait is continuously changing. It's just that most of the time we are so asleep to ourselves we don't even know it. In a funny kind of way, that's not a negative thing, that's a good thing. It allows us to get on with it. But if you don't have the switch that can go, oh, aware. If you don't have that switch, then how will you ever help yourself? You have to go to the next step. You're told class 4, that's what he's trying to tell you. But you can form in your own self the skills to be able to direct yourself well most of the time. And when you really need an expert, someone to help you, go to them, but you'll be able to take what they can give you so much more better because of your book. So this was the beginnings of looking at how a lesson's composed, a very loose one, but we've established a couple of headings, that there's an engineering perspective, which blends into a biomechanical perspective, it then goes into an anatomical perspective, physiological perspective, emotional perspective, a psychological perspective, neuroscience. We didn't quite touch upon, but that's okay. So there's all these different lenses, different filters that you can look through a linguistic perspective, language perspective, that you can analyze a lesson from and suddenly realize it's multi-layered. It's a rich composition. And that makes it exciting. We'll do that more and more. So it's 25 past 12. Is that 12 or 1? 12? What should we do? Have a break, and then we'll do a lesson before that. All right?